Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. Of course, I'm Brandon,
And I'm Mom.
and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you for joining us again. How are you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing well, Mom. How about yourself?
I am doing fine, and we will say happy Valentine's Day to our listeners.
Yes, happy Valentine's Day. And with that being said, Mom, what are we doing here today?
Today, we're going to talk about Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown.
Yes, this TV special came out in 1975, and Mom, I'm pretty excited for us to go over it.
Yep, same here, Brandon.
Yeah, and so, Mom, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and head straight to the synopsis.
Alrighty. In this particular episode, Charlie Brown once more is kind of feeling a little lost, and his greatest goal for Valentine's Day is really just to receive Valentine's Day cards. And that, in essence, is this particular episode.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
Yeah, and have you watched the special already?
Oh, yes. I've seen this special many, many times, Brandon. So, yes, it's been a long time since I've seen it. Um, but, yes, I do remember the episode.
Yeah, I've likewise have seen it before as well. Probably not that many times in comparison to some other Peanut specials, such as Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, and among others. But I definitely have seen it.
Yes, yes. And what did you think, Brandon?
Oh, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I definitely feel like it. Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. I feel like having watched so many of these Peanut specials over these past few weeks and months that they've really begun to build on each other. And I think in each of them we get to explore different sides of these characters and learn more about them.
We do, we do. And one of the things, I like to do, Brandon, is actually try to find common themes that kind of take place in each of the movies. And so I kind of noticed a few things. I kind of noticed that each of these Charlie Brown specials has some sort of deep thought, which I think is kind of really important. And they make a point of making sure that the audience knows it. There's some character who will kind of just point blank, just tell the audience about the meaning of the particular holiday or the person or the theme of the movie. And so in this particular movie, I find that it's Schroeder. Normally, we've seen in our last few movies, it's been Linus, but I noticed in this movie, it was Schroeder. Were you surprised to see that Schroeder was this person?
Yes, it was. I mean, even though I definitely am used to seeing Linus in this role, um, I thought it was interesting that they chose Schroeder because I mean he's always seems to be in these specials, but usually he's not given this much emphasis.
Yeah, and that's very true. But what I noticed that was different from this particular episode than some of the others was that Linus was actually given his own plot. Linus has always been, even though he's always there, he's kind of entangled with Charlie Brown and his particular plot. And in this one, Linus actually has a little temper too, which I found kind of interesting. Just for those people, just as a reminder, Linus wanted to give a Valentine's to his teacher, and his teacher actually left the classroom or left the students to go on a date with her boyfriend, and so Linus wasn't able to give his Valentine's to her.
Yes, and she had the nerve to leave with her boyfriend,
She had the nerve to leave with her boyfriend, and she had the nerve to leave before school was out.
which I thought was so interesting and definitely will not be how it is in present day.
Yes, that is true. This would not be allowed now. And then to go on to the common threads, I also noticed that Snoopy always has a separate scene, and my thought is kind of his interpretation of whatever holiday or message that's kind of going on in this particular movie. And so in this particular movie, we see Snoopy is he actually has a little play, and I had to write it down. He has tickets for the Puppet Ball Day special, and so he gives a little play at his house, and Lucy and Snoopy are there, and Charlie Brown is there also. And it was kind of like a 4D, in my words, 4D type of play.
Yeah, with rain and things being thrown at you and everything in between.
Yes, a mud, yes. And then One of the other things that I've noticed about each of these movies is that Charlie Brown, of course, it is called Charlie Brown, but Charlie Brown is initially left out of some sort of, is left out in some regard. And so in this case, Charlie Brown was left out because he didn't receive a Valentine.
Yeah, which I thought was definitely interesting. And but what I've noticed in this one is I don't know if Schroeder got one though.
I don't know, but Schroeder played such a large part of passing out the Valentines and actually being the one in charge of the class, for the Valentine's Day process that maybe it was, maybe the audience isn't supposed to notice that. Although I'm sure he probably got one from Lucy.
Probably.
Yeah. And so those are some of the things that I noticed in the Charlie Brown movies. And so as we continue to watch these, I do want to kind of look out to see if there are any other common threads between the movies. Um, and so it's just like I mentioned, it's just kind of nice to watch.
Yeah, they are. And I think to add on to some of your really great observations that you've had is that each special, I feel like, sort of picks and chooses who out of the group of Peanuts characters to focus on, whether yeah, in the forefront and even the background ones. I feel like shift special to special.
Yeah, like for example, in this one, Peppermint Patty is there, but she's left out of the. She basically is left out. She doesn't have that many lines in this particular movie.
Yeah, and same with Franklin.
Yep, the same with Franklin also. But then we had another character that you mentioned to me earlier today that actually had more lines, and that was Violet.
Yeah, and so we oftentimes see Violet in the background, but normally she's not given this much speaking roles, and I think she had more than two actually.
Yeah, and so that was, once more an interesting thing to watch. And one of the things that we noticed, we are watching these on Apple TV, and one of the things we noticed that there are a lot of specials. I think you told me at least 51 specials that are online so far, anyway. And but there are a group of the Peanut stories out there that actually have to deal with the particular characters themselves. And so we've already seen one based on Lucy, which was the New Year special. And so it'll be interesting to see which other ones are out there. So we'll have to explore those later on this year, Brandon.
Yeah, and even though it wasn't fully like intentional going into the year, saying we're going to focus on Peanut specials, but I've really been loving this, and especially because unlike miniseries, this is truly a series of specials, and there's 51 of them across the decades, really.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And I think we've talked about one that'll come up pretty soon for the audience.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely excited for that one, and if anyone has any guesses as to what that is, let us know.
Yeah, please put it in the comments if you're trying to guess. Okay. I was going to ask Brandon, was there anything else that stood out to you in this movie?
I will say that something that stood out to me in watching, because I was definitely, I feel like a little bit more observant this time around,
Hmm.
and makes me almost want to go back to some others. But something that had actually stood out to me is that every all the characters, their socks match their outfits colors.
Yeah, that is really observant, Brandon. That's interesting to talk to find out.
Well, not only that, but towards the end, where Schroeder, yeah, defends Charlie Brown.
Yeah, that was an interesting piece. Like I said, there's always someone who kind of brings some meaning into everything. And at this particular time, it is Schroeder. And so he does get mad at the group because they did leave out Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is willing to take the Valentine's that's old and the Valentine's that's been used just because that's what he wants. But Schroeder actually has some good points. And so it was good to see him get those points in this movie.
Yeah, and on a technical aspect, though, what I found a little bit interesting was sort of the direction of which everyone was coming from right before that scene. And it looks like Schroeder's actually coming from Charlie Brown's driveway, sort of like in the way that he's walking towards there, whereas everyone else, to include Sally, Charlie Brown's sister, is coming from another direction. So which made me wonder, it's like, huh, so Schroeder's coming from visiting Charlie Brown and Sally was with the group?
Yeah, maybe Sally was. Sally was with the girls.
But yeah, but Mom, was there anything else that you had noticed that that was either similar or even different from the other specials?
No, there wasn't anything else that I noticed. But I will say this: we're trying to rate the movies and TV shows that we do watch, and 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. And so for this one, I would give it probably maybe a 4.
Yeah, I definitely think four too.
Yes. Yeah. And so, once more, happy Valentine's Day to our audience, and we thank you for joining us today.
Yes, we thank you for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day. And I do have one quick note before we go ahead and end out.
Oh, what is that note, Brandon?
Yeah, so oftentimes we try our best to look through connections, and of course, this is not the first Charlie Brown special that or Peanut special that we have discussed, but we do actually have an interesting dynamic with some of our voice actors.
Oh, we do. What is that?
So the voice actor for Linus in this one, he not only did the voice for the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special, but he is the younger brother of the voice actor that played Linus in A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
So yeah, so this Linus is the third Linus, whereas his brother was the first.
Okay, well, that's really good to know and very interesting. As I read it, thank you so much for sharing, and for everyone else, have a great day.
We'll see you next time.
All right, bye bye, everybody.